Hi there, folks. Charlie Gipple here, the owner of CG Financial Group. I do a lot of comparisons among IUL policies, among fixed annuity policies that exist out there today. Even within the policies, I look at the volatility control strategies, the fixed rate. Why the heck is Charlie looking at the fixed rate? I'll explain here in a bit. Also, the plain traditional S&P 500 strategy. And you've heard me say this before, I'm sure, that I like to, when I want to assess how much horsepower the carrier is putting into that index, I will look at the fixed rate strategy and also just the plain vanilla S&P 500 strategy, not the noisy volatility control strategies. I'm not saying I don't like the volatility control strategies. I'm just saying if I'm looking for a benchmark of what the carrier is putting into the call options, I will look at the fixed rate, which sounds weird. I'll also look at the S&P 500. Now, why is that? Let me step back for a second, talk about one of the core principles in finance and economics that I follow as I do this research. It is the notion of risk premium. We all have risk premiums in various aspects of our life. I can sit at home all day, and that's safe. I'm not going to get hit by a car. I'm not going to get shot. Usually, I'm not going to get shot at home. I'm not going to break my leg if I otherwise would doing something stupid. I have no risk premium. It's not fun. It's not rewarding to me just to sit at home. Although as I get older, it gets more and more fun just to sit at home. Well, conversely, I can go out and ride dirt bikes with my kids, jump terraces, and I'm taking on a risk. I could break my leg. What is my reward? What is my risk premium for doing that? Well, the enjoyment that I get out of that. And that is the risk premium by riding dirt bikes. Take finance, for example. Then I'm going to bring it back to index products and explain kind of some of the methods to my madness, which is backed by economic theories, economic concepts that I'm talking about here. So in finance, you have risk-free investments. The risk-free investment is the treasury bond. Believe it or not, there is nothing safer in the world, at least based off of academia. There's nothing safer in the world than Treasury, the U.S. Treasury, when we talk about risky investments, risk-free investments. The 90-day Treasury bill is kind of the benchmark for the risk-free rate. Or if you're comparing a longer-term risk-free rate to something else, long-term, it might be the 10-year Treasury. So let's take this. Over time, the 10-year Treasury, I know that the 10-year Treasury has averaged 4.2% to 4.3% yield over the long run. Well, conversely, the equity markets, the S&P 500 has averaged since 1926 around 10%. So what does that tell us? It tells us the risk premium, the reward for taking on that additional risk, the equity risk premium in the S&P 500 has been almost 6% over time. So by taking a risk in the stock market, you're getting an additional 6% above and beyond the risk-free, quote unquote, investment. All right, so now let's go to indexed UL as well as indexed annuities. There is something that's fairly risk-free to consumers in UL as well as annuities, and that is I just want to get a multi-year guaranteed annuity. If the carrier has, say, 4% or 5% to play with, what happens to that 4% or 5% that the carrier got from their general account investments? They just pass that through to the client. So for our purposes, all intents and purposes here, we can say that that is the risk-free rate. Let's say 5%. That client can get 5%, period. Just get a MYGA. I can offer a MYGA today, 3 years for what? 5.5%, right? Now, indexed annuities were created in 1995, then later IUL in 1997 with this notion of risk premium. The carrier says, well, instead of just giving this 5% to the client, what if we took this 5% and not invested in the stock market, but invest in something actually more risky than the stock market, and that is call options. By us taking on that additional risk, then over the long run, we should have a risk premium above and beyond our 5% that we otherwise would have given to the client. So then indexed annuities and IUL were born, 1995, 1997. Indexed UL, I don't need to tell you this. At one point in time, IUL was being illustrated with like 10% rates. So what kind of a risk premium is that? You have 5% that is turning into 10% for the client. That is a 100%. You are doubling that call option budget. You're taking 5%, turning it into the 10% that the client is going to see in their illustration. A 100% call option risk premium is not going to happen. It's never been able to happen. Thus, the regulations, AG 49, AG 49A, AG 49 Part 2, AG 49 Part 2, focusing on this risk premium aspect here, where regulators are now saying, yeah, that's ridiculous. Even a 5% call option budget illustrated at 7%, that's a 40% risk premium there. And if that was possible, everybody would be flocking to those call options that the carriers are buying, bidding up the prices so high and bringing the overall return down to where that call option strategy might fall more in line with the 6% risk premium that the stock market has done over time, 8% risk premium, 10% risk premium, not 40% risk premium. And as a matter of fact, AG 49 Part 2, effective May 1st, 2023, says, yeah, that call option budget, how the product should be illustrated is for that particular strategy, whatever that carrier applies towards that call option budget, take that times 1.25%. Assume a 25%, which is pretty big, a 25% risk premium on that call option budget, and that is how the illustration will run as far as the max illustrated rate. So the answer to the question that I've had a lot of this strategy versus this strategy versus this strategy, how much call option juice is applied to these various strategies? I never had the answer to that, but one way that I could kind of tell is to look at the fixed rate, right? Look at the fixed rate on this IUL versus this IUL, this fixed annuity versus this fixed annuity. IUL is a little more complicated because there can be additional expenses that can supplement the call option budget. So that is why I have always said all along that I like to look at the fixed rate strategies in a world of smoke and mirrors with a lot of the, and I like the volatility control strategies. It's just there's a lot that nobody knows behind the curtain when it comes to these volatility control strategies. So I've always liked to compare the fixed account rates because that can be representative kind of a call option budget, and also just the plain vanilla S&P 500 without any fancy multipliers attached to it. So I bring all of this up to let you know some of the method to the madness. When I talk about risk premium, when I talk about the fixed rate, a lot of people are confused. That is why, because of the core economic notion of risk premiums. And folks, IUL illustrations, indexed annuity illustrations, if a carrier can take a call option budget of 5% and turn it into 10%, 15%. I saw an index annuity illustration, 13%. Really? So you are taking that call option budget of 5% and you are effectively tripling it. That's a 200% return. That's a 200% risk premium when the equity markets over time have had a risk premium of 6%. That's not the way efficient markets work, folks.